daughter of the murdered MP, Sir David Amess, says she's being failed by the same people who mourned at his funeral. In her first broadcast interview, Katie Amess says there are still unanswered questions about her father's death. She's demanding the inquest into his murder be reopened, and she's accused authorities of avoiding accountability. She was speaking to Robert Peston.
Katie Amess remembers her dad, Sir David Amess, just over 3 years after the Southend West MP was brutally murdered.
He was the worst Santa Claus.
Oh, was he? In what way?
Well, look at him. You can see his brown hair
Oh,
from
I see what you
underneath,
mean.
and he's too skinny. I think he ruined a lot of children's Christmases.
She puts on a brave face, but the trauma has been devastating.
It's just living in a nightmare. You wake up and you think this cannot be real. This has to be a dream. The pain and the horror of everything that happened, life is extremely, extremely hard.
Sir David was assassinated in a frenzied knife attack by Ali Harbi Ali in an act of Islamic State terrorism, even though for a few months in 2015 he'd been placed in the government's Prevent programme, which is supposed to wean vulnerable people off extremist ideology and to keep track of them.
It's unbelievable that this young man was reported 7 years before and he just wasn't followed up on. He even said during the trial that he just knew to nod his head or shake his head at the right places and they would leave him alone. They didn't do a follow-up interview with him. It was missed. I want to know why it was missed. The subsequent meeting with him, they decided that he wasn't a terrorist because he literally just said, "I'm not a terrorist." And then he went on for 7 years to do all this research. The scheme failed catastrophically.
Do you have any idea why the security services had not a clue about how dangerous this man was?
I'm not allowed to know why. I'm not allowed to have an inquest.
I wondered why her family had initially seemed relaxed that the inquest would never happen.
My mum had a stroke after this happened. That's how much it physically affected her. She was in no right mind to be making any of those decisions.
She asked the Home Office for help in reviving the inquest, but says she was turned down.
Who was the Home Secretary at the time? Was that?
That would be Mr. James Cleverly. I would love to have a conversation with Mr. Cleverly. And I think he should be made to publicly address us and explain why.
You just don't trust the process.
These people came to the funeral and were crying and so sad that it had happened. Yet when I need support and to be allowed to, find out what happened, nobody is anywhere to be seen.
How important is it to you, your siblings, your mum, that you feel that your voices are heard?
My dad will never meet my children. People just need to put themselves in our shoes and think how they would feel in this situation, and he's at least owed the decency to help his family during the worst time of their life and give them some of the answers.
Honoured with a statue and flowers here in Southend, but dishonoured, say his family, by an establishment that will not give them the truth. Robert Peston, ITV News in Southend.